everyone, Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's on the Tube, where it's our show here on ActionX where we review things in the world of television. Normally we are doing episode by episode reviews of currently on air shows, but sometimes there's a bit of a moment where we decide to kind of go back to our history, revisit what we've done already, kind of give some new, fresher opinions, fresher takes on it, maybe go a little bit more deeper, as in mine will, because today we are reviewing the entirety of DC Stargirl, the first season. This is the definitive version. We had already done a review series on the first season of Stargirl when it was still airing back in 2020, and now here we are. We are doing a definitive version because at the time we did do a season 1 review, but we only did a spoiler-free version for the people who had yet to watch Stargirl at the time. Now it's been 4 years since that first season ended. Well, not ended, one since it came out, roughly around 4 years. And you know, we're in a whole completely different environment. Stargirl came out at the beginning of the pandemic, and now I believe it's been almost 2 years since the show concluded. Which I'll talk more about that in a future episode review. But in general, this was a different era for DC in television. This was very much the age of expansion. This was before everything happened with James Gunn taking over everything that happened right now with the new DCU, all the reorganizing, all the reformatting. And this was at a time where we kind of were throwing stuff on the wall, trying to see what would stick, what wouldn't stick. You would get shows like, of course, The Flash. You would get shows like Watchmen that are acclaimed and amazing, and then you have shows that are good or okay, and then you have shows that are we're pretty much debating who in their right mind picked up this show. Is it really because of the DC naming, which at the time, DC in terms of just the in the aesthetics of, hey, we don't have an MCU, where at the time, again, thinking about it back then, I know people are going to say right now it's debatable how you want to think of the MCU or how DC is in media. But at the time, Marvel was king. Marvel dominated the movies. And at the time, their TV show offerings were kind of ranging all over the place. So DC knew okay, we don't have a connected cinematic universe we can succeed on. Well, we have great movies at time, but we don't have that consistent flow of thing, the consistent moneymaker. So let's try our luck on TV. And oh my God, that era was so much. You had everything on the CW, any other the partnership, on Fox's Gotham. You had eventually HBO's Watchmen. You had so much to work through. And in that era where this was at the time where everyone was splintering off into their own streaming platform, it became so minute that not just companies were getting their own streaming platform, actual brands were getting their own streaming platform, which I feel that was the beginning where the cracks started to form, and now they're kind of where we are now today. So it's kind of funny to see how much has changed in 5 years. Where in 2019, there was a really big push to give DC its own streaming platform. And it wasn't just, a streaming platform. You had a platform for comic books, for old movies, old TV shows, and get new original content, which at the time they did a whole line of Titans show seasons, Doom Patrol, Swamp Thing. They brought back Young Justice when that was the big hunt. And finally, as of today, the last installment that they were pitching was a show about Stargirl, which relatively is a newer addition to the DC lore. It was created by Jeff John, one of the current architects of DC in general. And this was a passion project for him, to bring a character that was so beloved to him onto the small screen, but to get the opportunity to really have a whole new generation of fans kind of embrace it, such as myself. And I was in the mindset at the time, when I was just starting out What's in the Tube, that I was not going to review any superhero shows. That was just my mantra, because it would be okay, it's so cliche. I'm just gonna jump on the train wagon, and I don't remember exactly if I planned it out, but I did watch that first episode, and I was like, yeah, I'm in. I'm very much in. And DC Universe as a platform at the time was trying to elevate the medium, where we weren't trying to make just another TV show. It is a story being told in a TV broadcast, style, but we are trying to elevate the acting, the quality, the CG to make it a little bit more presentable like a movie. And I feel like for this first season, I think they did the job. Definitely, you feel the budget. And I will say this, you will definitely feel the budget decrease in the next 2 seasons. But I'm not saying that as a negative, At times, writers and, the production team, they can work with what they have to tell a great story. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to these types of shows, if the story is great, if you're really backing into the idea, you will ignore all that and just enjoy the actual product that you're seeing. Obviously, of course, it can take you out of it at times. That's, bad CG and bad VFX can always, do that. It can like knock you out of the world you're trying to inhabit. But at times, if the story is really good and engaging, then you got yourself a recipe. And I think honestly, to kind of, beginning like in my usual style, my usual questioning, is Stargirl season 1 worth the binge? Is it worth watching it in its entirety? My answer is yes, 100% yes. I think this is one of those like rare show where like it was literally premiering in the wrong era. If this was a 2017 show, we would have gotten the whole story. We would have gotten like, more people behind it. It came out at the wrong time. It really did. I'm grateful that at the end you got 3 seasons of it. But at the same time, this was a 6-season planned show. There was meant to be more storyline, more development. This first season kind of was like a really nice, well-done foundation for future storylines to take on. And, at the same time, this also felt like its own story. This felt like, a continuation, a story about legacy and found legacy. And this wasn't just another one of those, I don't want to say the CW shows where like eventually there kind of was like a bit of like a stigma of like, you have the main hero, but it's a TV show. We can't have the main hero take up all the screen time. So we need to give him a team. Here, like, even though like it's a team show, it's an ensemble. I'm just being honest, even though the show's called Stargirl, she has her own team, but it's a little bit different. Like every single person on the cast has some sort of development. They have some sort of story. And, and even like for the first time in a long while for me, at the time of when I was watching the show live, it was rare to really get some good, somehow very good quality time with the villains. And I always give superhero comic book shows more credit when it comes to the villain front because you have much longer runtime. With the movies, you got to kind of give some leeway because I got 2 hours to fill a time slot. Sometimes it's very difficult to kind of fill it in. I'm not saying it's impossible. You see movies like The Dark Knight where it is possible to have the villain really like kill it, to really like get that, sort of messaging throughout. But at other times it really kind of hard. It is hard to do that. Here it's like you have a whole freaking villain team and they still manage to like, all these characters are developed. They have unique personalities, different motivations. You feel for them. Like this is one of those rare shows for me. Like I felt for all of these characters. I understand where they're coming from. Some of them are kind of crazier than others, but like I understand that they did such a great job with the world development, and sometimes that can get very hard to do with TV shows. It can be very hard in like comic book shows even. Like it's like obviously like. If you're making a show about Superman or Batman, God forbid if we ever get a Batman show, like or Spider-Man even, we're not going to go those latter two, but like, like you have so much villains, you have so many characters you can build off, but when you're coming out on a show called Stargirl, which again only has been in that comic book space medium for under 2 decades, you don't have much material to pull into, but they managed to find a way to like, respect the DC canon, give it its own lore, and somehow make everything engageful. You like, it's one of those rare things where like you want to see every single little corner of that universe develop. Obviously we never got it, but just the way this first season was pivoting to that, it was like, damn, I would love to see this. I would love to see that. I would love to see everything. If we had all the money in the world, of course, give me a Stargirl verse. Like, okay, I'm not gonna be critical. Don't say certain things about me, but I remember some time ago, I think it was a year after Stargirl came out, there was another DC show called Naomi that came out, and the creators were like, oh, we're going to start the Naomi verse. Everyone's going to be part of our universe. And I was like, yeah, no one wants a Naomi verse. I like, again, Action Speak Volumes, where were those viewers? I'm just saying. Anyway, enough criticism. For me, I loved Stargirl season 1. I really, really did. It really like caught me off guard at the time. Um, sometimes you get hits and misses with those with DC TV shows. I think that was a golden era where like that little tiny margin. You had Watchmen, Doom Patrol, Swamp Thing, and then this show. I was gonna say Young Justice season 3, but like that was like, let's talk about that another day. But and even Titan season 1. That's again conversations for other days. But for me personally, as the viewer, I really enjoyed it. I really, really did. I had a blast rewatching this again, in time for 4th of July, because, even though like it's not a patriotic show, Stargirl, kind of looks like, all her color scheme is kind of like America. So I'm like, it kind of works out timely for the holidays. So I'm like, you know what, this is the perfect time to do it. I had just wrapped up some other stuff from my usual workload, and I'm like, you know what, I could use something enlightening, something refreshing, something like that's really gonna get my blood flowing again. And oh man, this season was so good. It really, really was. With that all being said, I highly recommend it. We're about to jump into the full spoiler section. So if you have not yet seen DC Stargirl, the first season, you can go find it. It's available on Max. You can also buy it on DVD and Blu-ray, so you have options. Otherwise, this is your warning. I will be jumping into spoilers, and yeah, there we go. C'est la vie. So, going into it, again, when I was hearing stuff about the show, I was, again, very, apprehensive about it, because, again, you're not only introducing a whole new heroine for the first time on the live action front, you also introduce a whole different corner of the universe that we're not used to seeing. The Justice Society, the Injustice Society, all these characters, which they're not Superman, they're not Batman, they're not Wonder Woman, but they're their own thing, and they have different operations, and this was definitely at a different time period where before the Justice League was a thing, there was the Justice Society. You had a different version of the Flash. You had multiple different heroes, being like the protectors of Earth and beyond, and a different Green Lantern, even in a completely different style, and that was a different era of comic books that at the time, that was what the people gravitated towards. And then you kind of feel that in a way here where it's kind of like they found a way to like kind of like acknowledge like, yeah, this is the heroes of old. Now we're kind of moving into a different generation, so to speak. And I think honestly, they use that to their advantage, to kind of like do the traditional, like, oh, the old generation died, now it's a new generation taking over. Like, as much as cliches that trope has gotten a lot in recent years, I think they do it right here, where like they literally keep you on your toes of like, well, what does it really mean to inherit that? What does it mean to like really keep that going, mind you? Like, whether it is found legacy, real legacy, trying to find your own path. There's so many different things about it, and that I really got enthralled in it. And speaking of what I know, like, when we started that first episode with the Justice Society of America literally dying, I'm like, damn, you killing everyone. Everyone died. Like, I say that with an asterisk because of future stuff. But yeah, no, majority, they died. The team protecting the world died. And the only one that survived was, at the time was the sidekick. And I'm just like, first of all, shout out to whoever cast Joe McHale as Starman. I have no context of who Starman is. Even when Legends of Tomorrow, that another DC TV show, did the Justice Society of America, I don't even think they put in Starman. They put in Stargirl, a different variation of her. So for me, I was like, damn, like, I'm really liking this. I've only seen Joe McHale in a handful of things, but like he was the perfect fit for her. Like he does look like the leader. He does look like the Captain America, Iron Man for this team, the Superman for this team. But he's kind of got like some whimsical, like, he is human. Where, yeah, he's not afraid to pull punches. Like, yeah, like he is not trusting Pat to be the new Starman. This is not one of those types of story. It's really like the staff will choose the next Starman, the next protector, but it's not you. And I'm just like that. And even though it got sickening, the amount that he mentioned it, like, not you, definitely not you. And I'm just like, it gets funny every time, and that really sells me on it. And at the same time, you get this other side of the story where there's just a young little girl who is living with her single mother, just longing for her dad to come home, and he never does. And that also kind of sets up like kind of how everything goes about, like just how funny life moves, how life goes, and everything. And just by the time we catch up to present day, to like how much life can change overnight. Where again, one day our main character Courtney Whitmore is an unhappy teenager. Her mom got remarried, which is great, but they're moving to Nebraska. She's got a new stepdad, a new stepbrother, a whole new life away from her friends and everything she known. And then the next moment, she's technically a superhero. So I'm like, you never know where life's gonna really take you next. It really isn't. And for me, like, again, it's all about selling the delivery, selling the performance. Like, the characters are the story. Like, if the story sucks ass, at least for me, if the characters are intriguing enough, if they are, engaging as a entity, then I'll stay on board. I've stayed on for a handful of shows only because the characters, like, they keep me going. And, seeing that performance, seeing that delivery, seeing that what are they going to do next does kind of motivate me to kind of stay on board with the programming. So here, like, even like just beginning the story, already getting Starman, already getting, Pat Dugan, her stepdad, getting her mother, getting her brother, even before we even get into Blue Valley. I'm already intrigued enough as this, just the family dynamic where like, it's a new family. It's a newfound family, it's kind of like the Brady Bunch in a way where like the mom and dad found each other later in life. They got married. Hey, look, they already got kids. Now time to bring them together, get a dog, and live that hopefully nuclear family lifestyle in an old house in the in small town America. That's the dream. And once you then start like pulling back the curtains a little bit, slowly introducing the rest of the cast, more of the new teenagers, like the people who would eventually be Courtney's friends and her teammates. Some people that are going to be her enemies, and essentially when you get to like the real enchilada of the Injustice Society, every single character is engaging. Every single character has their own personality. They have their own, wants, desires, regrets, and you're on board with it. And that got scary a little bit because like the more characters they kept introducing, I'm like, well, there's just not gonna be enough time to get to the main programming. But they made it all work. Again, shout out to the writers. They knew how to pace themselves. They knew like, okay, this episode is about this, and this is gonna lead into this. Like they just knew how to keep the story flowing. They just knew. It's the slow withdrawal of like, even though we kind of have like the understanding like, okay, it's the Justice Society versus the Injustice Society. We know how this should go, but it's not quite as simple as, just like a traditional storytelling. You gotta have to deviate, kind of keep everyone on their toes to kind of keep the main plot kind of chugging along a little bit. And as well as sometimes it's not about the super heroic. Sometimes it's about our personal battles, our personal conflicts that we're dealing with that interferes with the work of what we're trying to do here in the end of the world conflict. It's a really good balance, and it doesn't keep you bored of like, okay, they're gonna recruit this member, they're gonna have a fight, oh, they lose, we're gonna redo it again with a new member. Like they don't do that. They do things a little bit differently. They may seem like it sometimes they're gonna follow a cliche trope, but they do something else the next time, and then it keeps invigorating things to keep going. And I really marked that about that. I really value that story direction they tried to do, and I really I enjoyed it. I really, really did. And then, like I said before, with the characters, oh my god, like I don't even know where to start. Like, there's just so many, and it's like one of those words. I'm like, I remember every little character because even a scene or two is enough in this show to really get you sold on what's going on. What is going on here? Where, like I said before, a common problem in most comic book shows is the villains are never developed. They're never really able to fully take grasp of what's going on. They're not really able to like get the full mark because like again, it's the hero story. But here it's a little bit differently where you have a whole team. You have Sportsmaster, you have Tigress, you have Brainwave, Icicle, the Gambler, the Fiddler. You have so many of this, this already established supervillain team taking on these very novice new superheroes, and even they're like not perfect because they're all been stuck here for like almost a decade trying to get the master plan going, but it's taken some time to get there. and they're kind of already getting sick of each other. So it's sadly not like a uniform front. They may have 8 members, but they're far from being a perfect, well-oiled team. Well, actually 9 because it includes Dragon King. So either way, it's like, frack, like, like, this should be open and shut. Like, it's just like, the convenience of like, oh, we're going to take advantage of this personal conflict so that bam, you're not able to like say defeat the day and stop the heroes. No, like something happens, they screw up, and I'm like, these are all simple things. If you all were on the same page, you would be avoiding this. But that just keeps everything engageful because sometimes they're like really up against the hill. We're like, oh crap, they're fighting this guy. This is not gonna go well. And then you're fighting the next guy, and I'm like, oh god, this is not. We don't know what we signed up for, and it's just. It gets a little all over the place in terms of just like, how do we really stop these guys? How do we do it? Sportsmaster Tigers being the comic relief for like, they're just parents who love their kid, but they also like, are assholes, and they are willing to do what they want to do to like make the assholes in their lives pay. And they just have such a funny band, especially when Sportsmaster eventually gets introduced with Pat. And I'm just like, him trying to like get him to a workout regime was just like, it's funny. It's really, really funny. I'm just like, yeah, this man knows what to do. This guy's a businessman. He knows how to get that money. He knows how to get those people into his gym. He knows. He definitely knows. The Gambler, not even a physical threat. I just love his performance, his accent, his just delivery with his line. He's just like, he perfectly plays a villain. Like, you like him, but you just want to punch him in the face. It's just like, it's so perfect because you just want to see him pay and suffer. You really, really do. Fiddler and the Magician are like, okay, you know what? They tell a different story of the ISA where, like, life doesn't, like, they didn't exactly want to do these things. It's only because they kind of had to do these things. And now they have the opportunity to, like, kind of take a break from it all and kind of, like, do something else. They kind of are used to their new life, but at the same time, they're kind of obligated by promises and, agreements to, like, continue doing what Icicle and Brainwave and Dragon King are planning. And it kind of can get a little hard to, like, rest of that morals when they all have kids. Conveniently enough, almost all of these villains have kids at the same time the new JSAs are. It's all convenient, like, okay, let's all have babies now, and then maybe in 10-15 years from now we're gonna have a battle with the kids. And I'm like, Jesus, like, y'all really planned this. Y'all really planned this well. Then you have Dragon King, which I really love the voice delivery. I really, really did. Sadly, he just seemed like, very much, creepy villain, has cool fight scenes. That's about it, but like, the performance was like, oh my god, so well done. I would have loved to get a season behind of Dragon King being the villain. I think that would have been cool to like really build on that one. And the Magician was such a tragic story. It was a tragedy, just how like unkept these villains are. Like, not even people on your own team are safe from, what their goals are. Like, if they have plans, if they have goals, that is it. Like that, nothing else matters to them. And it becomes really troubling, considering the fact when you get to the big honchos like Brainwave, like, I feel like Brainwave had the biggest potential to be the villain, the big bad villain. It's Icicle this season, but I feel like Brainwave, like, he got sidetracked because, like, how do you really like deal with like a telepathic, mind control, telekinetic villain for an entire season? It can get hard because eventually it just becomes like, well, why doesn't he win? It's kind of like how back in Arrow season 4, like, it just can mean like they somehow always get away from the villain. Like, they're humans fighting magic, and they never die. Well, okay, never die in 23 episodes. So I again, pacing wise, they did a perfect way to kind of like side bench him and then bring him back and really start messing things up again for them. But now, like, really dial into the question, like, why doesn't this guy just end them all right now? It would literally be the simplest thing in the planet, but it works. And, getting to the, developing of the villain, Brainwave and Icicle are just like the two top tiers here, where like the way they use this, thematic device of when Brainwave's son gets his powers finally, and his father had already recorded hundreds and hundreds of days of him slowly descending into psychological madness because of his powers, was, both thrilling to get the lessons that his son needed to avoid that path, but at the same time, for us as a viewer to understand why is he like this. you know, because like you expect powers to be gifts, but sometimes they're burdens. Like, you know, I guess Charles Xavier in the X-Men prequels films kind of, you know, touched on that a little bit. We're like, yeah, reading all those minds can be a lot because, you know, we can say certain things. Like for me, I could say something right now, but that doesn't exactly mean you know what I'm thinking in my brain. That's a much more scarier thought. You don't know what about that. And if you have to listen to it day in and day out, how does that do to you? How does that do to your psyche of just like how humans are really? So you kind of get understanding to like why he wants to do it. Obviously, we're human nature. We're not perfect. But for him, it's like some of these thoughts for some of these people are so dark. Like, why are they here? Why are they here on this planet? They shouldn't be here because like, why are they thinking like that? And then Icicle, like, that's why I say, if I really have to rank them, I would give it to more to Brainwave, because Icicle, he had his motivations with his own passing of his wife, and then even his wife also demanding, like, yeah, make sure you brainwash the entire America. Like, that is the goal and dream here, and also take care of our son. And then you really get into, like, you know, the real weeds of where we are currently, where, damn, like, this man is not only unhinged, but he's also, like, reasonable. Within reason, ironically, where he eventually does kind of gain a little attraction towards Courtney's mom. And it gets a little bit weird because like this man knows she's fully married and everything. Yeah, he's taking her away on business trips, you know, giving her nice candlelit dinners. Like, it's like, dude, there's something called, even if you're the villain, there's something called respect thy man's wife. But like, you know, but like once he's like kind of getting to the deep edge a little bit, he kind of loses his touch a little bit towards the end. So that's why like I really give it to Brainwave. I was like, oh, he should have been the main, like the real villain leader. He really should have. It was just God. He was so well done in his delivery. And then you have, you know, obviously the polar side of things with the new JSA, and there were a bit of hiccups, you know, not like in terms of the quality, but in terms of like, you know, the actual characters getting on board with each other. Because, you know, it isn't 1, 2, 3. This isn't the Power Rangers. We're like, oh, we're a team now. We're going to be friends literally the next episode. Like, no, that's not really how it works. It takes time to really develop that teamship, you know, really develop those connections, you know. And Courtney didn't even know she wanted to be a superhero until after she got the staff. And that's when she started recruiting everyone. And in reality, it's like, you know, she didn't really have much choices on certain people, but, you know, she did her damn best to see who was worthy of things. And that was just a slow progression as we were getting more lore and more history, that Courtney got the idea of, like, assembling her own team, her like a whole new team of, you know, of heroes and everything. And, you know, like, again, the starter pack right now, it's just kind of like, okay, you know what? It's just, you take what you get. You're in a small town. You can't just go to another state and recruit someone, because, like, how are they going to get here in time? How are they going to get here? So those are the questions to be asked for this moment. So for her team, really, starting with Beth, you know, the new Dr. Midnight, I really, like, she was cringe. But when I say that, I don't mean it as a negative way. I just mean that her character, it's like, you know, obviously it's very sweet to have, you want to have a strong relationship with your parents, but you're in a very particular time in your life where you are growing up. Maybe it's better to like form those new, deeper connections with friends, you know. And she doesn't know quite how to do that because like no one kind of wants her. She just kind of isn't wanted. And even like at the time when we do meet her, even she's brutally honest. We're like, yeah, no one wants to sit with us. This is the losers table. Like, you know, we're the rejects of high school society, and it's kind of sad, really. It really is, especially when you, before she becomes Dr. Midnight, and she, well, tries to like do everything she can to hang out with her parents, and she's in the middle of having dinner with her mom inside of her office, and it's so sad that even her own mom's like, I love you, really, but you could be hanging out with friends right now on a, like, they have this time where it's like, if she was to tell, I'm going on a weekend trip with my friend, I'm going to sleep over, they would be like, yes, absolutely, yeah. And you feel bad for her because, like, she is a genuine good human being. Obviously, sometimes, and even I admit this myself, like, you know, some good human beings, like, have difficult quirks. They operate differently. That doesn't take anything away from them of the type of person they are. That's just how they exhibit their affection and their display. And, you know, even like them as a team, like they were like a little bit apprehensive, like Beth really like, okay, we kind of got no choice but to give her the title because she's gonna snitch on us if we don't. So I'm like, we got no choice but to make her a superhero. But eventually, like, once you kind of like have to like team up with them, and you kind of have to like really spend enough time with it, you kind of realize, okay, this person, she ain't so bad. She ain't perfect, but she ain't so bad. And that she's still there. She's still very much, even though she's not a fighter whatsoever out of the four of them, she's still very much like eager to like, be there, try to support any way she can, really help out. And, this entire thing probably gave her, like, probably would be the most exciting time of her life right now. That's what it seems to be. Then you have, damn it. I was so close with the name. I was doing really, with Rick, the new Hour Man. And Jesus, this boy was just so close to having a decent life. He was so close. Because his dad was like one of the few that didn't die on the night that JSA died. He was still alive, but he was on the run. So he had to get away from his son with his wife to just guarantee his safety. And they were this close to escaping. And then Solomon Grundy came in and just slammed their car away. I wasn't trying to like do a nursery rhyme. That actually is what happened. And again, like, you have different experience of like, when you don't grow up with a proper support system, him losing his parents at such a young age, having his uncle who didn't really know how to, be a social person, doesn't know how to be like a parental figure, kind of letting Rick kind of do his own elements. And yeah, Rick does some very illegal stuff, when we first started him out on the show. But then once, he was given an opportunity to like, really take back control of his legacy, take back control of his destiny, he started to turn. He really started to change, slowly but surely. He still got some, anger problem, but it's coming from a different place. It's coming from like an understandable place. And, by the time you end his story, it's like he grew up a lot. Like you physically felt him. I think of the four, matured enough to really be like, oh damn, like I've seen somewhat the error of my ways. Like I will not forget like the monster, the hero becomes the monster moment where, he eventually finds out it was Solomon Grundy that killed his parents. He goes to fight them. He goes to fight him, and after saving Pat before he dies, and he was this close to killing Grundy, and Grundy just he looked like a puppy, like an animal, just like a wounded animal. He didn't want to die. He didn't do it on purpose. He probably was just mind control. Probably was just like coerced to do. That doesn't mean he did it 100%. And he had to change of heart to protect him, to kind of like, give him the opportunity, like, okay, get out of here, go do what you got to do. I'm like, this is a one-time thing. And, he did that out of the kindness of his own heart to do that. And, that was not the same Rick we saw at the halfway mark when he first got his powers. Like, he very much changed and evolved to like really be a little bit more of a mature, a little bit more of a actual human being instead of like trying to like, pass along as one. So it very much made for him to like, officially be back on the righteous path. But it's Yolanda. Of the three new JSA recruit, it is Yolanda who actually really like, she had the word. Like she had the life she always wanted. She was this close to keeping it, and it takes literally one stupid simple mistake to cause that. And again, it's debatable whether or not it was her fault or it was Henry's fault. It's still up for debate whoever you ask. I'm of the mindset of like, both parties were in the wrong. However, sadly, this escalated out of the control where her entire family basically disowned her. Like, how would you feel if like your mom and dad didn't really love you? Like, I'm pretty sure deep down they do love her, but they don't love her like they used to do before. And that actually hurts more because like they're still alive, they're still kicking, and they're still looking at you every day, but they look at you with such remorse, with such regret, just like, where did we go wrong with you? And, when it comes to the development of, especially, someone of a child, even the teenager can still be considered a child. Like, that's not good for their psyche. Just like the vulnerability, the loneliness, that she has to live day in, day out, with no more friends, no boyfriend, nothing. And, even the small time she gets, tokens of affection, she rejects them because she can't trust anyone. She literally had the biggest betrayals of her life, and it's hard to trust again, really. And, her eventually meeting Courtney was like, at first, like, I don't want to be with you. Like, please get away from me. Like, really, you are not understanding that I do not want friends. I don't want anyone in my life. And then once Courtney being very persistent, mind you, eventually tells Yolanda, yeah, no, I'm here for you. I think you just need a chance. And then eventually she gives Yolanda the opportunity, like, really to grow again, to be herself again, to kind of like trust again. And, it always takes that one person to really get back things into, get back into things, to really get into where you were before. It won't be the same, but it will be different. But unlike Rick, where he went from a negative path to a positive path, this one being more like a gray path to a darker path, where, Yolanda was like, still on the upside, like, everything's still going well, but she kind of did some screwed up things, eventually, them being the new JSA, they comes with a little bit of a gray area where, like, Rick wanted to kill Grundy. Eventually, after a point, Yolanda wanted to kill Brainwave. And unlike the other, Yolanda actually did kill Brainwave at the end. And it's still like, you got to weigh in your options. Like, what did she do? Like, she's just a teenager. She's just a kid. And she just killed a grown-ass man. Obviously, of course, he was trying to take over the world and everything. I'm like, she straight up murdered him. And, like, that's not going to come without retribution, without consequence down the road for her. But, like, I'm just like, damn. Like, I couldn't believe it, mind you. I really couldn't. Like, the fact that they went that far to, like, really kill off one of the big bads. And, like, just, like, for her, it's like, okay, we got to move on. We got a mission to do. I'm just, like, not even taking a moment to, like, really seep that in of, like, what just happened? Like, I don't know how else to explain it, really. And then you have, like, everyone else in the middle, really, before you get to Courtney, where you have her family, like Barbara, who is just trying to be a mom. She's just trying to be the best mom she can, trying to, like, be a new wife, be a new stepmom, be a mom, be obviously an employee for a very nice improvement company. It's trying to start opening a new life, a new town, and, like, it can get a little bit crazy, mind you. It can get a little all over the place here with this, and all they can really do together is just keep trying, keep pushing together to be the best versions of them that they can be. And, obviously everything she does, being the outside perspective on things, like, she's very much, like, very open-minded. Obviously she's going to have human reactions when she finds out a thing, but at the same time, she also is knowing of, like, okay, wait, like, hold on, let me make sure this is actually true before I do anything final, because just to make sure. And she's very much of an open, more communicative human being than some other people that I've seen on TV before. And she actually is reasonable and, understandable at the end of things, of, like, where the whole situation lies, mind you, of things. Then you have the complete opposite person in, like, Cindy in Cindy on Dragon King's daughter, where, yeah, she is the rival to Stargirl. She very much is the antithesis of thing where, like, yeah, they're both in a way legacies, but all she wants to do is really, like, prove to her dad, like, she can be the same type of evil as he is, because all that she wants is just, her dad's acceptance, her dad's, that, admission, like, that I am your father, like, you are doing everything that I want you to. You are worthy of being my daughter. And that's all she tries to do. At first she's just trying to, like, try to live her life the way she wants to, but then realizing, like, this doesn't mean anything to me. Like, like, the way she grew up, like, all of this doesn't really equal out to what she really wants to do. And she does have a lot of cool fight scenes with Courtney. She has a lot of good moments, and, everything that she does is very much, reasonable. Her kind of starting, like, out, like, as the cliche, I'm the daughter's villain. I'm the villain's daughter. And then kind of being gray, where, like, she doesn't like it, like, what she's been, been treated for, but at the same time, she's also the type of person where, like, oh, yeah, no, I'm still mad at certain things. I'm still going to fight because, that's what I believe in. So it's kind of like the slow progression, like, of trying to get her to be her own person. And by the time you end the season, it's not like a full transformation. She's still got her own scheming going on, but, like, at the end of the day, she's still figuring things out for herself down the road. And you'll get to see that eventually at due time. And then you have Pat Dugan, who, like, oh my god, this man cannot catch a break. This man finally got a little bit of a break when he met Barbara, when he finally had a chance of, like, having a traditional single domestic life, and then now getting thrown back into things, having now being part of a third superhero team and still not being the leader. It's like, damn, this guy never gonna get a promotion. Gets drafted to a team called the Seven Soldiers of Victory. He's the unofficial 8th member. Then you're like, Justice Society of America. Oh, but he's not in the group picture. He's like the photo taker. And I'm just like, oh my god, this does not get a break. But I feel like here, even he's starting to like, get a little bit more, being the adult kind of helps when you're in a team full of teens where like, yeah, like, by default, he is the leader because he is the grown up. He does have the money. He does have the resources that they don't. And that gets a little funny eventually as he's starting to build his rapport with Courtney, really, because that's really like, I think one of the strengths of the show, the father-daughter connection, where kind of jumping in and out for Courtney's, side of things, where Courtney, when she gets the staff, she just naturally assumes that, oh, Starman's my dad. Like, this staff is my destiny because we are related. But in reality, it's not. It just happens to be like a Thor situation where, like, the hammer chooses who is worthy, and then you become the power of Thor. That's kind of in the similar vein. It doesn't mean, like, Jane Foster is Thor's daughter. No, that just means, like, she's worthy. That's basically it. Even despite that, in reality, like, she was trying to lure on of like trying to honor her father's memory, and then going to like she met her father, but her father was a piece of shit. But in reality, the person like that's always there, the real person that's taking care of her, that's helping her out, is Pat. And that takes a long while, especially like with any stepfather, stepdaughter, parent to sibling relationship. It takes a while to really get that to sink in, because you don't want to believe it at first, because like you just don't want to. And then eventually, once you really get into it, it's like, oh, okay, then it wasn't the thing I always wanted was always here. And, and that's all that is. And she goes through a lot for her first superhero journey, failing to save everyone, feeling like she's just not worthy of being like the next star hero. She goes through it. She really does. There is a human nature of her where like, she's not perfect. She's still, there are times where she fails, that she falls, that she can't really keep up with the demands of like her trying to like being this leader, being Stargirl, being all this. Like, it can get difficult. It really can be. And, but that's one of the defining traits of her character. She doesn't give up. She just keeps going in her own way. And even when she does stumble and fall, she eventually get back up, because she has her friends, she has her family, she has that confidence in herself to keep going. Even after when she finds out Starman is not her dad, she keeps going to the fact of like, no, but I am Stargirl. I was picked for a reason, because I am worthy. And I'm going to keep honoring that statement until whenever it's time for me to hang up the staff. And I think all above all is that her relationship with Pat is the one that keeps going. It is that defining relationship between them, because like you see them grow, you see them develop together, you see them actually like growing that connection more and more, not because of commonality, but just because of trust, because of dependability. That I guess in a way that's like what all fathers and daughters should always have with their with their relationship. Just like, I'm there for you and you're there for me, and that perfectly gets signed throughout of everything between them. And all those elements, all those pieces carries to this story that just works out. Like getting to hear the lore dumps from Pat, like, oh my god, I would love to see the Seven Soldiers of Victory for like an episode or two. I would love to see the Justice Society just in action, actually kicking ass. I would love to see all that. I also just want to see them actually go to the next level, like go to a city and like defend things. Like there's just so many opportunities, so many avenues, because the characters are so well done. They're so well developed. I will say, it was pretty cliche that they killed off most of the villains, but at the end of the day, the story matches up with the consequence of how things were supposed to go. It can't be very much like a traditional, like, getting them arrested type thing, because, this is real life. There's certain emotion, there's certain pivots, there's a lot of different factors you think about. And I think they did everything so well done here that it managed to line up to be a really great story, a really great focal point for these characters, and, something different from DC to be able to tell this story and have it work the way it did. And that's one of the many reasons why I really, really, really like the show. I really do. It's, I think, one of the best DC TV has ever put out in its era. And again, I'm just very much unhappy they weren't ever able to like fully finish their story. But at least this first season was just so well done. It was still well established. And like I like to think that there was way more to tell, because this was such well done with the lore building and these characters. That really hooked me in throughout. And with that being said, this season gets 2 thumbs up for me. I highly recommend it. If you have a weekend free this summer, please watch Stargirl. It's really, really damn good. It's going to really hook you in from that first episode onwards. And you're going to be clamoring for more. You're going to immediately want to get to season 2 and 3 afterwards. That's just how well done it is, and I will be very grateful that we at least got this season and the other two because of it. But let me know down below what did you think of the first season of DC Stargirl. Did you watch it? Do you want to watch it? Let me know. I would love to have a conversation with you about it. We'd love to talk about it with you. But I believe that's going to do it for me today, everyone. So around where this has been What's the Two from ActionX, having reviewed the first season of DC Stargirl in its entirety. If you want to know what we're doing normally, What's the Two beside our specialty seasonal reviews. Next week we'll be doing a Walker season 4 review, non-spoiler edition for anyone who has yet to check out the 4th season of Walker, currently now available on CW.com. But yeah, other than that, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't yet, like, favorite, share if you want to, ring that bell, and follow us on social media. But until we see each other again, thank you so much for watching. Please stay safe out there, be good to each other, and as always, peace out.